Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to today's HDI webinar, Taking the Service Desk to the Next Level, an Opportunity for IT Pros. Today's webinar is brought to you by Everbridge. I'm Roy Atkinson, and I'll be your moderator today, and we have just a few announcements before we begin. First of all, we're announcing Service Management World 2018. This is a brand new conference we'll be holding in October at the Omni Orlando Resort at Champions Gate in Orlando, Florida. Isn't that cool? Please check out the website, servicemanagementworld.com. Second thing is that you can stay connected with HDI via Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or on our members-only site, connect.thinkhdi.com. And remember that you'll be able to download the slides from today's presentation by opening the Attachments tab on your BrightTalk screen. You might want to just look at the screen and make sure you know where that is. Those slides are available. And the slides will advance automatically, of course, on your screen throughout the event. If you're experiencing any technical problems, please refresh your browser. That's the best thing to do. And today's webinar will be available on demand shortly after the completion of this live webcast, and you'll receive an email reminder to let you know that it is available. With us today is Vincent Jeffrey, a Senior Director of Product Marketing at Everbridge, focusing on IT service alerting and notification automation. He has more than 15 years of experience in the IT operations and service management space, with expertise in critical communications, IT service alerting, application performance management, and IT process, runbook, and workload automation. Welcome, Vincent. Nice to hear you again.
Thank you for having me. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody.
So today we're going to talk about some opportunities for the service desk. And one of the things that we want to talk about is how the service desk is becoming increasingly complicated due to a number of forces within the industry. But I want to start with something quite basic here. And that's basically, as you know, not all incidents are equal. And even among different industries or different companies, not all incidents are equal. For example, a printer breakdown might not be critical for your organization, but it might be critical for somebody who's in the printing business. It might not be critical in your organization, but it might be critical if what's coming off that printer is the application for a $67 million grant, and it has to be in print. So things vary in criticality and vary from organization to organization. You should all be familiar with the impact and urgency matrix here, just showing what's a P1, what's a P2, and as you know, those two factors, urgency meaning the timeline, and impact meaning how widespread is it or how important is it, combine to create the priority of a particular incident. And we'll be talking about that a little bit as we go. And I love this particular picture. It just is an illustration of how your day goes sometimes, right? Now, on the best of days, not everyone gets the message. So on the worst of days, which sometimes happens when you have a P1 incident going, not everyone gets the message, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. Getting the message to the people who need to get the message, when they need to get the message, and make sure that it's clear and concise and tells them what they're supposed to do. And you should have systems set up to do that. But let's talk about the complication of today's service desk a little bit. What's contributing to that? Well, first of all, distributed teams, very, very common. I'll show you some stats on this that we have from our annual survey, the Practices and Salary survey that we do each year. Distributed teams, very common. People in different states, people in different areas, people different countries, different continents. So having those communication lines open is extremely important. Multiple support centers. Maybe your organization is distributed across the country and you have a support center in each of your major office locations. Globalization. More companies, of course, reaching out across the globe and becoming international. self-service a critical reason why things are getting more complex? Let's look at it this way. Self-service is really good for resolving the repetitive, more simple things that would normally come into the service desk. You can publish the solutions for those, and people can go and resolve them themselves. But what that leaves is that the more complex issues are coming into the service desk, and those require maybe more research, more knowledge, more skill, more troubleshooting capacity, et cetera. And then there's rapid technological advancement. Look at all the things across the board that are going on today. At our Fusion event just a couple of weeks ago in Orlando, one of the presenters said, you may think things are going fast now, but they'll never go this slow again. Very interesting insight. Things seem to be proceeding extremely rapidly in the world of technology, and we're looking at things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, chatbots, virtual agents, and we'll talk a little bit about those. But it's never going to go this slow again. So if you think it's fast now, hang on a couple of years, fasten your seatbelts. We're going to go faster and faster. And that's when I think about business in 2017. I think of Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, and I think about the scene where the T-Rex is chasing the Jeep, and Jeff Goldblum is saying, must go faster, must go faster. That's how business is today to maintain a competitive edge. Those rapid responses and rapid deployments and all of the things that have to happen faster today. So I mentioned this, multiple sites, multiple countries, and I'm going to compare some statistics in a minute here, but let's just look at this one. Multiple countries up 2% year over year. So not only multiple sites, but multiple countries. Less than half of organizations only have one support center. So most companies, most organizations have more than one. And you can look at those percentages at your leisure. I'm not going to go through them. But as I said, globalization is one of the factors that adds to the complexity of the environment that we have to manage. And multiple countries went up 2% over last year in terms of the percentage of organizations. So let's look at some more year-over-year changes. No self-service. Some organizations reported that they don't do self-service. That went down 3% from last year, from 2015 to 2016. Not having a knowledge base went up having a knowledge base went up 3%. So more organizations have a knowledge base now that people can refer to. Documentation libraries went up 4%. Self-diagnostics, first, this is all self-service now. Self-diagnostics went up 2%. Self-healing went up 1%. So a lot of these technologies or a lot of this information is being provided to end users now in higher percentages than it used to be. More organizations are doing self-service, providing knowledge bases, documentation, self-diagnostics, and even up to the point of self-healing. So what does this do? As I mentioned earlier, this increases the complexity of issues that are now being presented to the service desk. What does that mean? It means we have to skill up. It means we have to look at our processes and procedures and become more streamlined. It means that we have to be ready for rapid response, and it means that we have to be sharp. We have to keep our skill sets up with the things that are coming, and there's lots of things coming. This is off some research that we did earlier this year. These are planned investments, and I've put arrows next to the ones that I've called out on the left there, so you can see the percentages. Cloud applications, of course, being the big one. Pretty much everybody is putting as much in the cloud as they can for bunches of reasons, from availability across the globe to just managing heating, cooling from data centers. So there's lots and lots of reasons that people are going to the cloud. But there's also really new technologies, advancements in artificial intelligence. Every place you look online these days and you talk about IT, we talk about artificial intelligence. Chatbots, really simple ways for people to communicate and triage those simple requests that come in. So again, it's a way to eliminate the simpler work and leave the more complex work for level 1, level 2 So chatbots can respond immediately to standard questions if you have them scripted. So lots of companies that use chat, especially going in for chatbots now. Machine learning. So you do it once or twice, and the machine starts to realize that this is the way you want a particular thing done. It realizes where to look to get the information it needs. And so, again, this is increasing the level of complexity for the things that the machines don't do. Service automation, big thing. About 70% of organizations right now have some level of service automation in place, and a lot of organizations are going to be increasingly investing in that. As you can see, that's the second highest percentage after cloud applications, down toward the bottom. Service automation, 46.7%. So that's a big deal. People are trying to automate as much as they can, reduce errors, make things faster and more accurate. And then virtual agents. So maybe in a few years, we're not sure exactly when, and we'll talk about that in a second too, but the simplest, at least the simplest operations for level 1 will be taken care of by virtual agents. It won't be humans doing them anymore, and again, for the same reasons. Faster, reduce errors, and make things more accurate. So let's talk about that a little bit. That's a scary thought, right? Everybody's worried about being replaced by robots, being replaced by artificial intelligence, being replaced by automation. So here's what we found in our research this year. We found that the work is shifting, not going away. And we've been talking about this for years. How can we do less firefighting, just maintaining, keeping the lights on, whatever you want to call it, just doing the day-to-day work that we have to get through in order to maintain our systems, and start to get ahead, start to complete projects faster, start to get more things done, start to be able to introduce new technologies into our businesses and thereby create efficiencies. More organizations have actually added positions than eliminated them. You can see that just looking at the pie chart. But the interesting stat here to me, the one that really jumps out, is that well over 45%, and so we're getting up there close to half of the organizations that have introduced automation have shifted the work. So that's shifting toward things that the machines can't do yet, and so or maybe we'll never be able to do. So machine learning and artificial intelligence do have some weak spots. This stuff is not here yet. It is for some small areas, but widespread it is not, and won't be for at least a few years. Nobody knows exactly when, but right now this technology is not there yet. So it's important for us in IT to make sure that we're prepared to do the jobs that the machines can't. And Vincent, I think you have something to say here as well.
Yeah, Roy, I'm looking at the data, and that this is spot on. I mean, when we talk about the future of service desk and the next generation of support centers, we always talk about automation, right? And this here shows that automation is not our enemy, right? If you add the blue, the green, and the yellow, that's, if I don't make a mistake, that's 92% of organizations saying that they are keeping the same number of people in the IT department and or increasing that number, which means the objective of automation here is really not to cut jobs, right, but to do more with what organizations have today. And I'm pretty sure that if every one of you here today would be to ask your CIO, and I'm pretty sure that he would say that in the past 5 years, because we have studies that have shown this as well, in the past 5 years, they've seen a huge increase in the number of digital services that the IT department needs to provide at every single company. And as we're going with the mobile applications, with new web applications, so the number of services, digital services has increased, but yet, as you can see, the headcount have not increased. So we are basically, or I would say companies are asking CIOs to do more with what they have. So basically, what we need to do is to become smarter at what we do, and that's where automation can help, really.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Vincent, and I think that one of the quotes that springs to mind about automation is the CIO of Capital One talking about some automation topics and saying that today their financial world is so complicated that they really can't make good decisions without the assistance of all the analytics and machines that they have. Some of the artificial intelligence has started coming into the financial world. So yes, complexity really feeds into this.
Yeah, and Roy, to your point, there's a survey and a research from IBM Watson that shows that even the human brain cannot cope with the complexity of today's complex applications. So basically, it's what you said before. We need to get ready for the next generation, and automation is not going to be an enemy to us and to the professionals in the service desk. So we really need to take this service desk to the next level. So what I like to do now is talk a little bit about automation, because it's a great concept. Yeah, automation is a great idea, but the question is really, where do you use it and how do you use it, right? So just like you did, Roy, I like to use the impact urgency diagram that shows where service requests and incidents fall. And I want to use it to identify the areas where different kind of automation can help. So starting with like you mentioned before, if we look at the high number of requests that are really low impact and low urgency, with usually you don't even have a SLA to respond to those requests. That's basically the reset password request. Can you give me access to a specific directory, to a specific application? I don't have an ID for this particular software, and so on and so forth. They usually are answered through FAQ, but that's where self-service and AI and virtual assistants are going to play a big role in the future. All those low impact urgency tasks that can be automated. So we're already seeing self-service being implemented, and we know that artificial intelligence is also going to bring a lot of value here for those tasks. At the same time, if we now look at on the other side of the spectrum and look at the high impact, high urgency issues, so these are I like to call them the OMG moments. You have a major incident in those cases. That's when the issue is going to impact your business operations. It's going to impact the revenue of your company. It's going to impact the productivity. It's going to create a lot of tension within the IT department, because under those situations or under those circumstances, people have to operate under a pretty high level of stress. There's a lot of pressure. You have your managers, line of business calling into the IT department to ask what's going on. You have your business users impacted and starting to be frustrated. And on top of this, you need to respond very quickly. Usually, you have SLAs in place with your customers, and you need to respond and resolve those issues within the SLA. And for some of you in industries like finance, on top of this, you even have compliance and regulations to comply with. And like we just talked about earlier, today, complexity of those applications are even higher than it was 15 years ago, where we had a application sitting on a single server. Now, environments are cloud or hybrid. We have, like you said, Roy, distributed teams, distributed NOCs, dealing with people on different continents, countries, time zones. Usually when we talk to organizations that have not put in place automation, again, what we're trying to do here is to see how automation can help with those high impact, high urgency requests. We usually see that there's a lack of defined responsibilities. We don't know who should be responding to those issues. There's a lack of centralized information, one place to go where you can find all the information about who to contact when something goes wrong, get access to the contact information, to the calendar, to know who's on vacation, who's available, and so on and so forth. And the question really is, in those situations, which we usually call crisis situation, where the impact is so high and urgency means that you have to resolve the issue immediately, the question is, how do you manage all those elements under these circumstances? How do you fight alert fatigue? The fact that, so alert fatigue, for those of you not familiar with this, is the fact that a service desk or an incident manager is going to send emails to entire teams and hope that someone's going to jump in to help solve an issue. How do you make people accountable? If I send you an email because I need you to join a meeting to actually investigate and fix an issue, how do I make sure that you're going to respond? How do we make people accountable? How do we make sure that whenever we're going to reach out to people, they are the right people that should be actually contacted? Confrontation is also something we hear a lot between service desk and the IT teams. Have you tried to call someone at 2 in the morning and ask them to join a conference bridge? Sometimes, especially if you call the network team, because they're going to make sure that they convince you that it is not a network issue. It can be extremely painful sometimes. Same thing with human mistakes. Under pressure, people lose their mind and are more likely to make mistakes. Again, if we are trying to reach out to the IT teams, how do we make sure that, how do we give them easy access to collaboration tools so they can speed up the time it takes to investigate an issue? How do we make this process repeatable, which means today we have a P1, you know what? Congratulations, everybody. We were able to get everybody on a conference bridge in 10 minutes. How do we make sure that this is going to be always the case? We're going to be able to repeat this process all over again. Same thing with compliance and regulations. I know for a fact that in finance, anytime you have a P0 or a P1, you have to record the conversation that happens during the resolution of the incident. So how do you do that? How do you keep this information stored somewhere for post-mortem, or if an auditor needs to have access to the file? How do you make sure that any time we're going to have a P1, a P0, we are going to be able to respond within the SLAs that we actually agreed upon? And another areas of concern is, how do we make sure we are going to improve the response team performance over time? Like Roy, like you said, it's going to go faster. It's going to go faster as we go. So how do we make sure that we keep up with the speed and make sure that we improve the response team performance, right? And last but not least, but again, if you have hundreds or thousands of impacted business users, how do we proactively communicate with them so that they are aware of the issues, they know that IT is working on the issue, so proactive communication. So back to what Roy was mentioning before, we see a shift in the service desk where we're going to need to be even better at what we do it faster, and gain skills, communication skills, collaboration skills, so that we improve our performance over time.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. So let's ask a question here about communications. How do you communicate with stakeholders when it's urgent? Let's see if we can't get some responses here. I'm going to start the voting, and how is your organization currently communicating with stakeholders when the need is urgent? So it may not necessarily be a P1, but you want to get a message out. It might be that people are connecting to a rogue site, or getting that message out to people to make sure that they're not doing what you don't. How many are communicating by email? How many are using a manually managed telephone call tree? So they're looking up on a list and calling people manually. How many are using a conference bridge where people call in after they get notified this is happening? And how many of you are using an automated calling system to handle this for you? And we'll leave that poll open for a few minutes. Not a few minutes, I'm sorry, a few seconds, excuse me, and just let you respond. So we'll go another 10 seconds. Use an email, manually managed telephone, call trees, conference bridges, automated calling systems. All right, so we're going to stop the voting and we'll take a look at the results. It's very interesting. So what we see is that email is the method of choice. And I'm going to take words out of your mouth, Vincent. I love what you say about email. It doesn't wake people up. That's absolutely brilliant. It doesn't wake you up. So you might want to think about how you do wake people up. 68% of the respondents are currently using email. 9% of you are using manually managed telephone call trees. 16% using conference bridges, and 5% are using an automated calling system. So that's a very interesting breakdown. Did you want to speak to those numbers, Vincent?
Yes, that's bad, but that's also great, because there was a survey that was published earlier this year that showed that 83% of organizations in North America were still using emails as their first communication channel when trying to reach out or communicating information during major incidents. So this is just a confirmation. And just like you said, as far as I know, emails don't wake up anybody at 2 in the morning. So
right. Absolutely true.
So extremely interesting here. I mean, this data. Now, if I go back to crisis management here, when I said, and I asked, okay, how do you manage all those different elements while working under pressure? The easy answer could be, you know what, let's hire more people, right? We could say, you know what, yeah, they'll do the job. So if we have more people, we can do everything you said. Now, there's another survey which is also aligned with the HDI data, Roy, which says if you look at the first donut on the left-hand side, you'll see that 79%, so 80% of senior IT executives are saying that hiring more people is not going to help. At one point, you don't need more people, you just need people to be more efficient, or processes to be more efficient, and that's what this is telling us. And this is key for the service desk. I'm going to share with you what I like to consider to be the next generation of the service desk. It's not only service desk, but it's also incident coordination. And that shows really how the support center should evolve and will evolve. And you can see that the service support here has a central or key role when it comes to communicating with the different stakeholders. Different stakeholders who are, first, the IT teams. When something goes wrong, this team needs to reach out to the right people who are going to start investigating the issue. Should that be a DDoS attack, a cyber attack? Should that be a application outage, a network outage, a data center outage? It can also be an issue with the release of the new build of an application. So even DevOps can be involved here. So that's one. Two, this same team needs to now be the go-to person or the go-to team for senior executive, line of business, key stakeholders, key customers when something goes wrong. And think about a cyber attack leading to a data leak. I can tell you, if this happens to my company or your company, the CEO is going to be on the conference bridge with us. The CMO will be involved, as they're going to have to craft a press release or things like this of this nature. So, and the legal department is going to also be involved. So, and again, to get information, that's the same team. That's the next generation of service desk that has the skills, that has the information, and which will coordinate information and actions. And last but not least, service desk is the gateway or the interface, the communication interface with the business users who are waiting for the service to be restored. So again, a key role for the service support here, dealing with the different stakeholders in terms of communication, collaboration, and this is going to increase over time. So back to the topic that we talked about, how can automation help here? So you wanted to say something, Roy? No. So
no,
back to
good.
So back to how automation can help with those high impact and high urgency incidents. It's not going to be the self-service. It's not going to be, at least for now, the virtual assistant that's going to help. It is what we call response automation. That's something that used to be called IT alerting 15 years ago by Gartner. It's now moving into more than just IT alerting, but communication tools, collaboration tools, and remediation tools. So let me explain to you what this does. So basically, I think I have one more slide before this one. Okay. So if we look at a typical process, and I'm just going to consider one process here, where the service desk or the incident manager is trying to reach out to the right IT experts to have a look at an issue. So it all starts, so I'm going to go from the top left to the bottom right of this slide, of this process. You can see this is a process. So it all starts with, okay, we have a major incident. Should that be due to ransomware attack, service operation issue, so on and so forth. So we have a critical event. It's going to make its way to the service desk. At service desk, it's going to open a ticket with your ticketing system. Should that be ServiceNow, BMC Remedy, Sherwell, Ivanti, you name it. We're going to open a ticket with high urgency and high impact in the ticketing system. Next thing that's going to happen, an incident manager is going to coordinate the resolution process, right? First thing this person is going to do is, like we just said in the survey we just did, is going to send an email to different teams. That's what I like to call the spray and pray. You send an email to entire teams hoping that someone's going to jump in, right? And in this case, we could say, okay, for this type of issue, we need someone from the network team, one DBA, one Java developer, a web developer, and someone from the technical support. So 5 people. So I'm sending an email to 5 different teams, hoping that they're going to all jump in. As you can see, they don't. Only one confirmed for many reasons. And actually, Roy and I, we did a webinar covering this topic a few months ago. So what do I do next? If I'm the incident manager, I'm going to reach out to the people by phone. So I need to find the contact information for the specific teams. I need to know who's on the team, find the phone number. And if I'm lucky, I'm going to be talking to the person and try to convince the person that, yes, they need to join the meeting. If I'm not lucky, I'm going to leave a voicemail. And guess what? What am I going to do next? I am going to try a different number, a cell phone number. Same thing. I need to find the phone number, the cell phone number, and and sometimes I'm calling in Beijing, China. I can be calling in Bangalore, India, or Paris, France, or London. As soon as you have distributed teams, distributed locations outside of business hours, that can become challenging. So I now call people on their cell phone. I was able to reach 2 of them, but and I left 2 voicemails. What happens next? I still need to get those 5 people to join a conference bridge or a meeting so that they can start investigating the issue on this particular application. I need to escalate. That's why you see the escalator icon here. I'm going to call the boss and I'm going to say, Mike, please, can I get 2 people of your team? They don't seem to be responding. Can you get them to join us? Which Mike is going to do, and call his people, and then I'll be able to send another email with the dialing information for the WebEx or GoToMeeting or so on and so forth. This very simple process here, if you look at the details, it took 51 minutes to get 5 people on a conference call. And believe me, for many, many organizations, it can be even more complex than that. And the issue with this is it is not predictable and it is not scalable. I can have the same exact issue tomorrow. I can have there is nothing here, because everything is manual, that makes me confident about the time it's going to take to find someone. The time to find someone, to get my IT guys on the conference bridge or in the same meeting. So what do we do for that? How can automation help? Automation can help here. As soon as you have a plan, as soon as you know as soon as we know what should be done when something goes wrong for the different application. And again, we don't have to boil the ocean here. Start with one critical application. Start with one process, your major incident process. Just say, okay, when this application goes down, who do I need? How many people do I need? No names, just resources that are needed. So that's the plan. And then use a solution that's going to automate the process of reaching out to people so that there is no mistake. No mistake, because communications are going to be sent based on communication templates. It is going to be less stressful because there will be no confrontation. You don't have to actually call people and convince them to join a meeting. And then this is, and we see that, is going to help change people's behavior over time. Why? Because if I know that the system is going to call me when I am absolutely required on a restoration call, and if I know that if I don't answer those notifications, if I don't acknowledge the notifications, the next person in line, so my colleague or my boss, is going to be contacted, it's most likely that I will take the call or I will respond to a SMS that I'm receiving. So this is, and that's what we see. This is changing the way people behave. So talking about automation, what would the process look like with automation? So same thing, that's the same beginning. What we see is there's a critical event. It makes its way to the service desk. Service desk is going to open a ticket in ServiceNow, the ticketing system. And automatically then, the communication can be triggered from the ITSM system, so from the ticketing system, or can be manually triggered. The system will reach out, will identify the right people. So if you remember when I said we need 2 people from network, 1 DBA, automatically the system is going to look at location, skills, and on-call schedules to see who's available and who's on call to take those calls for this particular application and this particular severity of the incident. It's going to reach out through SMS, phone, mobile push notifications until they respond. And if people don't respond, automatically it's going to get into escalation and reach out to the next person in line or to the manager. Once people do get the targeted notification now, in one click, they can get on a Slack channel or in a conference bridge. So no need to send an email with the dialing information. No need to be on this conference bridge and wait for everybody to join in and check if the access code is right and so on and so forth. In one click, solutions, the IT response automation solution will provide a access to a conference bridge or a Slack channel. And what we see is that you can reduce the time it takes to find someone or to engage the team down to around 5 minutes. That's what we see. Because again, there's no manual process. You don't have to find information. You have to actually call each and everybody. The system's going to do it for you. And what we see is a mean time to respond around 5 minutes. And at the same time, because now that you are not spending your time dealing with coding people, you have more time for more strategic actions or strategic tasks of coordinating the actual resolution of the incident, to communicating with the different departments that may be impacted, with spending more time reporting on the progress of the incident so that you can better communicate with the key stakeholders. And you can also now go back more easily to your business users that are being impacted by the outage and giving them more information. So again, that's what Roy was mentioning before, more skills in terms of communication, collaboration, and reporting, as opposed to manual task of calling people and dealing with emails and so on and so forth. And if we look at the overall benefits that automation can bring for high impact and high urgency incidents, besides saving time and money to the organization, it's really about making everybody's life easier in the IT department. So why do I say that? It's going to make my life easier if I work in service desk or level 2, and if I'm in the IT department, the IT operations team or the IT department, and I'm the one who's receiving the targeted notification, because I know that whenever I receive a call from the platform or the system, I am absolutely required. So that drives the accountability that I was talking about before. I know that when I'm called, it's because someone needs me. From a service desk perspective now, automatic escalation means I'm not going to have to call a manager at 2 a.m. because his people didn't, or her people didn't answer the emails or the notification that we have sent them before. So no in-person confrontation here. I'm going to be able to proactively notify large numbers of people. So all the end users that are being impacted by the issue will receive a proactive notification saying, hey, we know there's an issue, emails are down, or Salesforce.com is down, or GoToMeeting is down. IT is working on fixing the issue, and we'll let you know when it's back up and running again. Proactive communication. So that business users don't call into your service desk, and you don't have hundreds of people waiting in line to get to talk to an agent because they don't have access to an application. So that's reducing the number of inbound calls to the service desk. For the IT people, again, in one click, I get on a conference bridge. So even if it's after hours, even if I'm stuck in traffic, even if I'm in a meeting outside of the building, I'm not in front of my computer, in one click, I am automatically connected to the conference bridge. So no need for me to log onto the system, especially if it's at night, log onto the system, start my VPN, get to the company's network, and then access the application. There's a lot of, it makes my life easier. Again, automation, the solution will automate only the manual processes, so we don't change what people are using today. If you're using Slack, we're going to still continue using collaboration tools that you have in place. You're using ServiceNow, BMC Remedy, other ITSM ticketing system. There's no change to what you're using today. And from an IT engineer perspective, it's going to reduce the unplanned work. And so instead of being stuck on a restoration code for 5 hours, it may now be only a few hours. And last but not least, I talked about compliance and regulations. With an automation solution, everything is going to be tracked so that once you're ready for a debrief after a major incident, you're going to be able to have a fact-based conversation with all the stakeholders. You'll be able to show who was notified, at what time everybody was notified, who did acknowledge the notification, who did not. You'll see all the different, all the information around the escalation and at what time people joined the conference bridge, and so on and so forth. So all the information is going to be kept in the audit trail, as well as the full recording of the conference call and a full copy of the Slack channel if you're using Slack. So again, using a response automation solution, or also called IT alerting, it really helps organizations fix issues faster, but also, like I said, it will make everybody's life easier in the IT department, given the fact that in those situations, high urgency and high impact, these are situations that we usually qualified as crisis situations where there's a lot of stress and pressure. So with that, hopefully I was able to give you a sense of what an automation solution would bring to the table when it comes to dealing with high urgency and high impact service requests or incidents.
Great, thank you, Vincent. So we have some questions here we'd like to address, and one of them is, what about predictive service? Group A in the company is seeing X, and that prompts a notification for other users of the same app or service or network that they might have the same issue, and here's the workaround so they get it before they're impacted. And that's a great idea, and there are beginning to be solutions, since we're talking about automation and AI, there are now beginning to be solutions that actually will notice this particular problem or interruption or whatever it happens to be, and not only send a notification to other users, but will actually fix it before they even experience a bump. It's a very interesting time for technology, as I was saying at the top of the webinar, and that's one of the types of tools that's beginning to become available. Did you have a comment on this particular topic, Vincent?
I just wanted to add that I totally agree with you. And the beauty of this is all those solutions are getting integrated as we speak. And what we see a lot is if you're familiar with APM tools, application performance management tools, so, I'm going to give you a few names here, but New Relic, AppDynamics, Dynatrace, SOSTA, Catchpoint, those kind of tools, they do early detection of issues that can turn into bigger incidents if they're not, taken care of immediately. And what we see is with automation, response automation solution, you can, like the person was saying, send a proactive notification to whatever group that may be impacted, and also at the same time trigger a remediation plan. So if you have remediation plans already set up, ready to be triggered, this kind of event can trigger those remediation plans and, like you said, Roy, fix the issue even before the end user finds out. So that's a combination of response automation, orchestration, and remediation.
All right, thank you. We have a couple more questions that are actually related to each other. One person said, within our ITSM solution, we set automated assignation to specific resources plus live notification in the application, and it sends a notice in a chat tool, and they're using Slack. So that's one way to do things, and that assumes, of course, that people are actually looking at the application and or Slack. And then the other question that's related to that, it says, do ITSM tools like ServiceNow or BMC et cetera, have the automation piece for communications built in, or as a module, or is it only through a third party? And Vincent, I will leave that to you. You know more about that space than I do.
Yeah, and you're right, those two questions are related. So let me talk about the ITSM tools, BMC and BMC and ServiceNow. They have the ability, all the ticketing systems have the ability to send emails. And I guess that's one of the reasons why we saw that 68% of organizations are sending emails when something goes wrong. So they have email capabilities. Most of the time what we see is, because you never know who the email should be sent to, depending on the day of the week, the time in the day, the severity, and so on and so forth. Usually what people do, they set up the email notification to go to entire teams, which again is going to lead to alert fatigue, because IT people receive hundreds, if not thousands of emails every day. If we just keep sending emails to the entire teams, we are not helping with accountability, and most of the time people are going to ignore all those emails. So the answer is yes, they do email notification. Now, if you want a more targeted way to send notifications, you're going to have to use a third-party vendor. And there are solutions out there, solutions that come out of the box, like Everbridge, or SDKs, where you can develop your own logic to send, SMS and voice.
Great, thank you. This is one of the first questions that came in. Where do you see the use of P0 for the new need to respond to malware and ransomware? Oh, there's something that's at the top of everybody's list, right? Malware and ransomware these days. So do you have some thoughts on that, Vincent?
We replace a message. Okay, I'm just trying to read the question.
So it's okay. Where do you see the use of P0 to talk about the response to ransomware and malware, which is becoming increasingly important? I mean, it seems to me that if it's a ransomware attack and your company's data is being locked up by a third party, that's certainly at top of the list.
Yes.
That is something that needs to be addressed, and now. Would you agree with that?
Talking about, if the question, yes, and I totally agree with that. If the question is about P0, yes, a ransomware attack is a P0 or should be considered a P0 for the organization. And I'm going to give you a few examples here. The industry that's under attack as we speak right now by ransomware are really the healthcare and hospitals. Why? Because hackers, they know that doctors, nurses, and healthcare professionals, they need access to the patient file. They need access to what we call the EMR, the electronic medical record system. And if they don't, that can put the safety of the patient at risk, right? So what they've been targeting in the UK and North America hospitals with ransomware attacks. And for those of you not familiar with a ransomware attack, it's going to lock your screen, and you're going to have to pay a ransom for them to unlock your screen. The thing with that is this is a virus, so it spreads. So you have to consider this a P0, so that anyone that gets into the office should not log their computer to the network. So that's a P0 in the sense that it's high urgency. You need to respond immediately to the threat.
Yep, that is absolutely true. I agree with that for sure. It's amazingly how widespread that is becoming and how common it's becoming. Very scary thoughts. Okay, here's another one. Great ideas on how to automate escalation. Thank you. My question is, how do you automate triggering the fact that you have something to escalate, such as a high impact, a high urgency, or just a one-off?
So
I'll contribute a thought or two. Go ahead, Vincent.
That's the whole point of response automation solutions. What they do is they're going to reach out to the primary responders, and if they don't respond, you set the rule so that it's going to automatically get into escalation. That means it's going to automatically contact the next person in line. So when you do create your shifts and your schedules and on-call schedules, you have this concept, right? So it's just a matter of integrating this information into your response automation tool. And I'm going to give you an example. Let's say if we have a P2, you're going to start calling the person. If the person doesn't answer, you may send an SMS. You may try another phone number, and you're going to do this cycle 2 times. And after 2 times of this cycle, so 6 tries, you're going to escalate. So that's how you would trigger the escalation here. That's a number of cycles. And with response automation solution, you can even let the end user decide how he or she wants to be contacted. For example, you know what? During business hours, call me first on at my desk. If I don't respond, call me on my cell phone. If I still don't respond, send me a SMS, send me a mobile push and notification. But if it's the weekend, call me on my cell phone first, and then send me a SMS and keep calling on my cell phone. And if I really don't answer, call on my home phone number. And so that's how I think I'm answering those 2 questions at once here. How do you wake people up? Don't send an email. Call me. If you need me at 2 in the morning, call me. Or call me, send me an SMS, make my phone ring.
I agree thoroughly. Just have one other thought on the other question about how do you automate triggering the fact that you have something to escalate. That is an opportunity for artificial intelligence when it becomes really, really sophisticated. But at this point, somebody needs to decide. Somebody who is responsible needs to say, "Oh, we have a ransomware attack. I need to push the button and trigger the response system." All right, to decide that this is a P0 or a P1, whatever it happens to be, that this is really important. So somebody needs to start that process, and that's a human decision at this point. I think in future that will probably be automated.
And if you recall what I just said in a few minutes earlier, I have a plan, and the plan means if something happened to this application with this severity, then do this. That's what the plan is. So everything that is related to this question is going to be already defined. So you don't get to this crisis situation where you need to think about what to do. You already know what is going to happen, because you know that for this particular critical application, when a P1 or P2 happens, then do this. Reach out to those people. If they don't respond, you already have the escalation process in place.
Yep. And somebody has commented, sorry, how do I know if I have a P1 or 2 before escalating? That's the plan, which you referred to earlier, Vincent. You need to have a response plan for critical incidents. The same as you do, I would hope, for business continuity, for disaster recovery, for all of those things that can happen. You need to have a plan, and you need to put a team together that is responsible for responding to this. You want to have an incident response team so that when critical incidents happen, you know who's going to get these messages, whether you're sending them out manually or whether you're setting a system up that contacts people automatically, the type of system that Vincent's talking about. You need to have a plan in place, and you need to have those people designated before it happens. So when somebody says, this is a P1, the button gets pushed, the magic mythical button gets pushed, and the systems are in place to be able to handle that. So the right people are notified and the right people are responding. So you want people, you don't just want people on the calls, you want the right people on the calls, right? Mm-hmm. You need to be able to have the right people responding.
And I'm just going to add one last comment about this question. If the question is about how to define if it's a P1 or P2, you can refer to the first slide that Roy used in this presentation, where he showed the table to help categorize incidents by priority, P1, P2, P3, P4. and so on.
Exactly.
So there's a table, there's a methodology for that. And
Thank you. And thanks again. We're going to wrap up here, Vincent. We're out of time. Thank you so much for your participation and for Everbridge's sponsorship of our webcast. We really appreciate that. This webcast is copyright 2017 by United Business Media, LLC. The presentation materials are owned by or copyrighted, if that's the case, by HDI, which is solely responsible for its content, and the individual speakers are solely responsible for their content and opinions. On behalf of HDI, thanks for your time and have a great day.
Thank you very much.